Yeah, thanks for having me.
Look at that beautiful side light on you.
Yeah, I tried to make sure the lighting was good. I like angled everything.
So where are you at right now?
In Michigan. So
In Michigan? Yeah.
yes,
Awesome.
I feel I've never been to Canada, but I feel connected to Canada because it's so close. I could drive there in like a couple
Yes.
hours.
You
But
should
I
come to
feel
a workshop here.
yeah. I was going to with Sam and Ryan Muirhead, but that kind of fell through. But hopefully we will be able to this coming up year.
And have you done quite a few of your own workshops then?
I just had one like a week or so ago, and that was the first one that I've ever hosted. I don't know if you follow Nirav Patel, but I've modeled for quite a few workshops with him, but never like did any sort of actual teaching, just like little stuff here and there. But yeah, that was my first one.
I got asked to speak at a workshop. It would have been my first one. I had to turn it down just because things are so busy with Pepper. But I got asked to speak at Camp Dumore, and that's the big boudoir conference that happened.
Oh yeah, right.
You would love it. It's so much fun. Just like naked people everywhere.
Yeah,
awesome.
that sounds awesome.
It is so good. Like up and down the lake. It's just like a line of nude people with cameras, like people around them taking photos.
That sounds like a lot of fun.
It's honestly such a great time, and everyone's there just to create some really cool art and have fun, like interact with each other, be a part of the community. But I got asked to speak at their workshop next year, and I'm a pretty social person, but the thought of having students like just around in a circle just look at me and ask me questions and just like or like sit there wait to be amazed, that makes my heart just beat faster thinking about it. It's exciting, but also
terrifying. I know. I taught at a field trip earlier this year and had like a similar kind of situation as that. Like I also thought the class was going to be a lot smaller than it was, but like a lot more people ended up showing up than I was expecting. And yeah, it was really weird, especially getting started. There's like a room of like 30, 40 people and you're like, hi. I don't know anything.
You're like, I just take photos like this.
Yeah, exactly. It's hard to know like what people don't know. So, there might be stuff to me that seems like very like elementary and like, but maybe somebody doesn't know it, or maybe it's good to hear it again. So I try to keep that in my head. Cause when you already know the stuff, teaching it feels like, if I don't know.
Yes,
like
exactly.
Imposter syndrome kind of stuff. Yeah.
Totally. And then, so do you pre-plan ahead of time, obviously, like what you want to talk about, and do you practice it out loud and pretend like you're teaching a group?
Yeah. Especially the workshop that I just did, because I had a little bit of experience with field trip. I didn't really plan at all. I made a PowerPoint, but I didn't really practice what I was gonna say because I didn't really know. I just tried to freestyle it. But yeah, this past time I only got 2 hours of sleep actually before my workshop. So I ended up staying up that whole night practicing it, and my brain was fried, but I think I did okay.
So was it really natural that you got into educating from being an artist? And then like, how did you even get into that?
Yeah, I guess I mainly just started doing it earlier this year. Ryan was teaching at Field Trip and convinced them to let me come and speak. So yeah, that was it. Ryan just was like, hey, you should come teach a class about self-portraiture. And then I think it's just kind of like snowballed from there. People have just asked me to come do things here and there. And I just can't, I want to say no because it's scary, but I can't say no. Like that side of me that's like, you just have to do it. You can't turn down this opportunity. So
it is a skill, I think, to speak publicly, and even confidence. Like confidence is a skill. I think people, you're not just, you are confident. I think it is something that you have to build on.
Yeah, kind of convince yourself. It's definitely like a mindset. I think that we all have, I know that I do this. I go home like after maybe something like that, like a speaking or like hanging out with a group of people, and I like start thinking about everything I said and being self-critical. And then I'm like, nobody's probably thinking about it that hard. If anything, they're going home and thinking that about themselves. They're doing the same thing I'm doing. So, it's all about what kind of space in my mind I want to create. So you try to push down those types of thoughts.
Your work is so beautiful, and I feel like it's really unique to for North American shooters. I feel like your work definitely is more what I see coming out of Europe versus North America here. Is that where you get a lot of your like more inspiration from over there?
I think a lot of the photographers I really like do tend to be European. I never really thought about it though, but now that you're saying it, I'm like, oh yeah, they all are European.
Yeah. It's so cool. And I feel like it's really, I don't know, soulful, and but also like it pushes the boundary a little bit. Like it's like sometimes unexpected. Like you think like the one with the flowers coming up off the cheeks.
Yeah. That one I had done a bit more like traditional, like floral and pretty dresses shoot with a friend, and the florist gave us the flowers to take home. And when I was looking at those, an image popped in my head of them just like growing out of my face. And so I went home and made it happen.
I love
That's not as common where I have the image. More of it's just like jumping in and experimenting than it is like a solid idea that I have from the start.
What do you do when you're not feeling creative? Does that ever even happen? Like, do you ever get to a stage like, I want to shoot, I need to create something new, or it's been a little while and I'm feeling the pressure to be Britta Bug?
Right. Yeah. I know what you're saying. I've felt that. I definitely. So it's weird. I got asked that field trip too, and what I said was, I think the best thing to do when you're in a situation like that is, instead of having the goal to be like, I want to make something that's Brittabug or something that's like beautiful or creative or whatever, you drop those types of words and you give yourself like physical limitations. So yeah, all my shoots are like that actually. I've only started realizing like what actually goes into my work since I've been teaching, because it was just all kind of been stuff I just done, and then
it's natural, right?
Yeah. It's just I have a compulsion to tinker around with cameras and little gadgets and props and stuff. So that's where it stems from, but I never had to think about that. So I don't know that I necessarily get in creative ruts, because I don't think what drives me to create is something that's creative. It's more of like, I like to tinker around with little gadgets and stuff like that. You know, does that, I don't know if that makes sense, but
no, that's fun. That's actually, I was chatting with Sam about that. He says he will lock himself in a room.
Right.
And just force himself to create something from this room, like something in here.
Yeah. I think that's the best thing to do. Specifically, I like to give myself 2 limitations. So like every shoot that I go into stems from like 2 things. Usually it's like, maybe I'll get a light that I want to mess with from the thrift store, or like those flowers, like the ones that came out of my face, or something like that. And I also forage for like mushrooms and berries and stuff. So which is probably dangerous. I shouldn't say this, but yeah, when I'm driving, I'm constantly looking on the side of the road. Like, are there berries there? Can I shoot there? What's going on out here?
What kind of berries are you picking there?
Raspberries, blackberries are my main ones. I have a sleeve. I was going to show you my little tattoo. I have a raspberry tattoo right there. Yeah.
Who did that for you?
This one, her name is Bree Howard, and I don't know where she is now. She travels a lot, but she did that one.
Not totally sidetracked, because I grew up in the Yukon, and we did foraging and berry picking growing up.
Oh, awesome.
Mushrooms are big up there too, the morels.
Yeah, people love morels. I like morels. I'm like, it's one of those things where it's popular, so I'm like, I'm too cool for morels. It's actually because they're really hard to find, and I don't want to disappoint myself. So I go after other ones that are more plentiful. Those are my favorite ones.
But how do you know if they're like, are they so? Those are the ones that scare me, because I don't know. I feel like they're so close to poisonous ones. How do you know?
Right. Well, the ones that I go after are pretty easily identifiable. And I've had someone say this to me before, and it made sense. It's the same thing with like berries. You wouldn't just go and pick any berry and eat it. But like, once you know what a raspberry looks like in the wild, you know what it looks like.
Yeah.
It's the same thing with mushrooms. There's not as many lookalikes as you would think. And a lot of the ones I'm picking are very identifiable. They're not like just basic looking mushrooms you'd see out and about. There's a lot of, ways to distinguish them.
Would you use foraging in with your shooting? Because you
Yeah.
have done some with berries, right? And with your
Yeah,
I think I saw one with, like, was it raspberries, I think?
I've done with grapes before.
Oh, maybe it was the
Like,
grape one
and
I'm thinking.
I mushed berries, so they probably like look like maybe raspberries. But yeah, I've used grapes, and I guess I didn't forage those, but one of my most recent ones, I foraged some like bleached ferns, and because they got just bleached by the sun as it goes on as the season progresses. So yeah, I used those in a recent one for my Patreon, which I just started. So I haven't posted any of those ones yet, but yeah, I'm just always looking for nature to incorporate because I love nature. This is my praying mantis right here.
I was looking at like, I was like, what's in there? That's so cool.
Yeah. Yeah, his name is Cornelius. He's hanging upside down.
Oh man, that is fun. I feel like I wish I had a little like a close up of Cornelius.
Yeah,
Can you
I can give you.
can you hold him? Is he friendly?
He is friendly. He might jump because he's a jumper. Here, I'll just move my phone. Oops. Let's see. Let's see if I can get it to like focus. I can't really see. Can you see that at all?
I can see him oh yes, now I can. Yeah.
I don't know if it's focusing on him, but that's him. He's so cool. I've had him ever since he was like the size of a dime. So I feel like a proud mother.
How old do they get, or how long do they last for?
They live to be about a year.
Oh, that's pretty good.
Mm-hmm.
Oh,
Yeah.
but...
Yeah. It does get sad though when they die, but it's a good amount of time I think for a pet, and it's very non-committal. They can go like 2 weeks without eating, which is kind of what I need. I travel a lot, so you know.
Are you traveling mostly then for like, so are you doing mostly personal shoots?
Yeah. Most everything I do is personal. I do like some paid work, mainly for like musicians or models that want stuff for their portfolio. But yeah, and I don't really advertise like my services as a photographer at all. Like I have an Instagram for it, but I never really advertise it.
And it's private.
Like that I do shoots. I just privated it, my Brittabug account, just like last week. Yeah, I had a situation where somebody sent me like really disturbing photos and said like really disturbing things to me. So I privated it just because, yeah, I was feeling unsafe. But yeah.
No.
Yeah, I've actually had that happen quite a bit the past like couple years. I think what it is, I've been talking with my therapist. I think what it is that just having access to so many people, there's just a statistic wise, there's going to be a handful of those people that aren't well and that get attached to things. And I think when you're making like work that connects with people in a very like intimate and personal way, yeah, that sometimes they see your work and they feel connected with you and they feel like they know you because they watch what you post every day online, and then it's just a very one-sided relationship. And then when that person feels like they can share things with you that they shouldn't, and then yeah, so I just had a situation where it's been probably the most severe situation I've had where I felt like it was just completely across the line. So yeah, I just privated my account, and I'll probably leave it like that for a couple weeks or whenever I feel comfortable enough to unprivate it, because I can't really I mean, that's how I teach and do workshops and stuff, so I can't have it private forever, but just for a little bit till it blows over.
Would it be beneficial if people believed, but then it's different. So it's hard when it comes to when you're an artist and it's a business, and then how much of it is art and expression and how much of it is business and making a living, and then finding that balance. And then, because I was thinking, if people thought your Instagram was managed by somebody else, would they feel,
right?
Would that feel safer? Yes. But also then would people connect with the work the same way? Like, then you think like, okay, well, then what's the purpose of my Instagram?
Right. Yeah, no, that's true. And it made me start to think about like people who like are celebrities and like how they deal with stuff like that. Like they do have middlemen for every single thing that they do, because there are people that are kind of not good, not well. So yeah, I know. I guess what it just comes down to is that I don't live in a world, that's the cost. That's the cost of creating art that's very intimate and personal.
That would make me so sad because
Yeah.
what artists, what we bring, especially like really inspiring ones, like what you're doing is very inspiring. What you bring to the industry, it's so beautiful. I think that could go away because of some creepers.
Yeah.
It would be devastating.
Yeah, I agree. I'm gonna try to push through, and I think that just create. I do need to have better boundaries, I guess, in situations where I can learn to. Not that I don't know how to say no, but be more forceful and more hold my boundaries up better, I guess. So
I've had it as well because I also shoot. I call it boudoir because I don't know what else to really call it, but I shoot some fine art nudes and couples. I shoot men and women, but
yeah,
I don't do a lot of self-portraits. I feel like even self-portrait, you are putting yourself out there even more than just your work. So I think that would be
right,
even more, you'd be even probably more targeted that way because people would feel even more connected to you. But
right.
I've definitely had my share of creepy DMs and followers and people adding me, trying to add me on Facebook. I've been this close to
Yeah,
deleting my
yeah,
Facebook so much just because of the direct access to me through my messenger.
yeah,
I
right.
really don't like that. But
Yeah,
I feel like I have to have it for my business.
that makes sense. No, I totally get that. If you decide to do that, I support you in that because, yeah, I've done the same thing. I had people start finding, even though I wasn't using my real name, people find my Facebook, and then I'm like, my family's on there, like everything about you is on there. So yeah, I deactivated my Facebook because of that exact reason.
So if you weren't, let's say you weren't on Facebook, and let's say you used Instagram just in a way to show your work, but not in a way to
Mhm.
engage, where would you engage with your people in your community? Patreon?
Yeah, I guess so. I guess that would be probably the next space to do something like that. But yeah, which would be fine. I do love the connections that you can make on Instagram though, and it would be so sad to like have that not be there anymore because yeah, I don't know. I like feeling less alone and making other people feel less alone. As far as like captions and those sorts of things, through my words, I guess, which I use my photos as a way for people to find my words. So yeah, it'd be sad to lose that, but I guess Patreon would, yeah, probably be the place I would run to next.
I feel like because at Pepper we work mostly with photographers. We work with all different kinds of creatives, but I'd say 80% photographers, and almost everyone. I'd say 80% of the creatives we work with all have like some kind of anxiety or depression, or they're
Mhm.
lonely. And I don't know if it's because of of the just like who we are and we're creating because we're just expressive and like sensitive people, but I feel like most of the creators we work with do feel like alone and by themselves because you work by yourself a lot. And I mean, obviously, like workshops and conferences and social media is really great for that. But I wonder if
Right.
there's still like a part where you have to, I don't know, be open to feeling those all those emotions, not just like happiness all the time to really
Right.
create really
Yeah.
deep work.
Oh, I think that's definitely true. I think especially like heartbreak, that's the one thing that I've experienced that like really drives to create work, maybe as a distraction, but yeah, also as like a way to kind of, get out those feelings. I guess that's, yeah, part of what it is.
And you said mentioned earlier that you see a therapist as well.
Yeah.
Me too.
I've for almost a year. Awesome. I
Yeah.
think everybody should. I
Yeah, I
literally
think so.
do. I don't think I haven't experienced much of like a stigma around therapy, but I know there definitely probably is and has been. And I feel, I wish it wasn't the case because I really think every single person that's alive could benefit from talking to somebody who specializes in mental health and can help you talk through
Yes.
things or even just listen to you. It feels so good because I struggle with like opening up because I don't want to burden people. And
Yes, exactly.
yeah, having somebody that I pay to listen to me, I'm like, well, this is your job. And this is what this transaction is about me saying whatever I feel like I need to say. It's very therapeutic.
Did you find you had to go through a couple to find one that really fit with like what you wanted to talk about or how you felt? Like
Right.
I have heard from people, and I had this like a similar situation where I felt like I was almost dating until I found the one that's like the right fit for me. Just based on, because even as a professional, as therapists, like it's still based on their experiences and their feeling. They can be neutral, but I still think there's that aspect where you're still a human and you want to connect with the person that's, I don't know, like on the same wavelength as you, or maybe like similar experience, or they experience things that you're going through. I don't know. I found like my first couple of it's like, this is nice, but I'm not feeling like connected to this person.
Right. Yeah, I think that's pretty common. I think most people either do that or they go to one person, it doesn't work out, and then they think that therapy isn't for them. Not that there wasn't the right connection there. That's what my sister had thought, and then she didn't give up and ended up going to another person, and they ended up being a great fit. So I didn't have that. The girl that I go to, we right off the bat, I felt like it was a really good match. So I think I'm like one of the few lucky ones that happens to, but yeah, it was a good fit. And almost a year probably I've been going and seeing her. Like last November, I was so depressed and I didn't move from my couch for probably like a month or two. I couldn't do anything. I've been depressed and I've always had anxiety since I was like 8, but I've never been like that low. And so that was when I was like, all right, I need to fix this. I need to see someone. And then within a month, I moved out of that place I was living and got my own, like a new place, and just changed my life and decided it was time to move on. And I'm super grateful. I always tell my therapist that I'm so grateful for her because I don't think I would have done it without her.
What would you tell someone that's maybe struggling or has depression and they're watching this and they're thinking about seeing a therapist, but they're just thinking like, I don't even know. Even if I saw a therapist, there's so many years of stuff I could tell them. I don't even know where to start. Like, what would you tell?
Right.
Like that?
Yeah, I guess I would say maybe similar to what I just said to you, after seeing a therapist for 1 month, I was able to get myself out of the deepest depression I've ever been in. That's a hard thing though, right? Like when you're depressed, like doing simple steps like as making an appointment with a therapist it seems like it's like the most giant mountain to climb. It seems almost impossible. But I think if you can just stop what you're doing right now, like stop watching this podcast, like go and like look up therapists in my area and just go for it, just book the appointment. I think that hopefully they wouldn't look back or regret it.
Yeah. Do you feel like your work has changed since seeing your therapist? I had a friend, he's actually a wedding photographer, and he said you can see even the slight differences in editing in your work when you're going through different stages.
Right.
Like if you're happy, you're like positive, maybe like new relationship or great friendship or whatever's happening in your life that's really positive, that your work even slightly is like a little bit lighter in the editing.
Yeah.
And then when you're depressed,
that's interesting.
It's like darker, like you're do you find that?
I don't know that I've ever actually evaluated and like compared, but now I'm interested. I'll have to, when we get off, I'll have to check. Not that I know. I guess within the past couple of years, I think I definitely have become more comfortable with just making what I want to make and sharing what I want to make. I don't know if there's like an ebb and flow of like darker and lighter. That's a good question though. Probably.
Yeah, I looked at that in my work as soon as you said it, and I noticed because I was like feeling good. I went through really like crappy divorce a couple of years ago, and my work during that time at the end of my marriage, it was so dark. It was so, and I just thought of like, ooh, like I'm a dark and moody shooter. That's just what I thought.
Right.
And then the last couple of years is definitely, I definitely see it like brighter and happier, and I mean, still like technically dark and moody.
Right. But yeah, I see what you're saying.
Like, any of my friends that are seeing this are like, yeah, Stacey, so bright.
Right. Oh yeah, I'm sure.
Yeah.
That's funny.
So for you, what's been the evolution for you? So you started off like shooting for yourself and creating, and then getting into education and workshops.
Yeah, I would like to keep teaching. we'll see. We'll see how my Patreon goes. I think this is going to be like the test to see if it's really the route that I want to take.
Mm-hmm.
I was talking with somebody about how, like, in order to teach, you really do have to dissect what you're doing in order to convey to somebody else how to do it. And through doing that, I think at this point, I've only had good things where it's me just actually realizing what I'm doing. But I do think that there could be a threshold and maybe a certain point where it does become formulaic, or you overthink it and you kind of lose the natural flow of just creating because you've started looking at it in more of a, dissected way. So we'll see. Hopefully that's not the case. And I don't think it will be, but yeah, I would like to at least keep trying to teach and see what comes from that, because it's been really, really fun.
I think it could be one of those fulfilling things where it comes full circle, where you feel like you're giving back to the industry that gave you so much. And I think in seeing other people that are so passionate and seeing them grow as artists, and that you were maybe a big part of that, it could be super cool.
Yeah, I think that would be amazing. I made my first Patreon video, and I've received 2 comments on it so far, and I'm like, yes, like just from my patrons, like, oh my gosh, I like this and I learned something, and I'm like, yes, okay, good. So I'm excited to keep making them and see what see what people can get out of it.
So it's just finding that balance between being an artist and creating. And then what would you say is your balance between having it as a business and having it as like you're making art and you're a creator and artist? And then can you make a living as an artist? Like people that want to do what you're doing, or they're creating beautiful art, and they're like, maybe they're doing it privately and they're not putting it out there. Cause like I still have a full-time job at XYZ, but how do you balance that, being like a full-time artist and a creative, but also still having a business?
Yeah, I guess it depends on who you ask. There are definitely people out there that I know that would say you can't do it. Because in some sense you do have to sell out and compromise and find a place where you can make money doing what you're doing. And it's a hard thing to do. I think that the key is just having a lot of different channels, not just putting all your eggs in one basket, but having different places where your income is coming from. I think you can do it. I'm still working on it, and I feel like I'm very like in the beginning stages. My biggest goal for myself was to be able to fully support myself financially and every single aspect. So I quit a really good paying job doing something I really loved, to not even necessarily to pursue this, but I quit because I hated it, and I hated feeling like someone else had control over my life and what I did. I think I was in like a particularly bad situation with like not the best management, but so I just kind of fell into this, I guess. This was this other thing that I did was for a passion, and I don't even necessarily, like I said, feel like I like pursued it too much. I just kept making art that I wanted to make. And there's something to be said that if you're passionate about something and that's your main driving force, that there will be people will show up for that, because they'll recognize, your dedication and passion to what you do. That's kind of, I guess, my perspective is just make passion your number one goal over money. And that's what I'm hoping. We'll see.
I think you're getting there, and I think you're going to rock that. I really love that. I have, actually I was speaking to Mike Vardy. He's the productivityist. And he's gonna laugh that I just called him that, because that's a whole other story. But he is like in the productivity industry, and he was saying that the top 3 reasons why people become entrepreneurs are fame, fortune, and freedom.
Fame, fortune, freedom.
Yeah.
Ooh.
Yeah, it's interesting. And then it can be a blend. Yeah. Like you're not just like 100% one or the other. But I find that most of the creatives that I know, especially photographers, and I think the really, really good ones, the biggest thing is that they started doing what they're doing because they love it. And the freedom to be able to live life on their own terms and doing what they want to be doing and creating is massive. Like the thought of, after being an entrepreneur, the thought of going back to a company and being an employee.
I imagine myself sometimes being like, would I be able to go and like work a very like 9 to 5 job where I'm doing something I don't want to do? And that sounds terrible, honestly, but I think that sometimes though, there is this like pain that comes from taking something you're passionate about and making money off it. Like we were saying before, because you do have to sell out to a certain extent. So, and I've experienced that like when taking photos, like for paid jobs where I'm like, oh, this just isn't like, accessing like that side of me. That's the whole reason why I do photography. It starts to feel like a job. And then it's like, photography has been my escape from my job. So once it becomes your job, you don't, like after shooting all day, I don't want to go home and take self-portraits because I'm like, I don't even want to look at my camera. So
you'd almost
there's
have to
definitely
like
a balance
segment that. Like you'd have to almost be like, this is my business branch, and then this is the stuff that I don't sell
yeah
on. Like
yeah
this is just for you.
Yeah, I think that's true. I don't know that I've been able to fully do that because I haven't been able to, I've been starting to recently with stuff like not editing everything to the extent that I want to for clients because I'm like, they really don't care and it really doesn't matter actually when it comes
No
down
one
to
else
it.
will
But
notice but you.
I know,
Yeah.
but me, but I do have like my identity is tied to my work to a certain extent and I don't want to have to compromise that. I don't want to have to compromise my art for money.
That's fair. I think, and also being an entrepreneur, you learn that you really can live off less, especially at the beginning, especially when you really don't need like a ton. Have less and do more.
Yeah, work harder, work smarter, not harder. Like just figuring out how you can really budget's number one. Just that's not something you're ever really taught how to actually do. So once you can incorporate that, you could realize like, oh, I don't need to spend money on any of these things at all, ever. Growing up, I'm one of 7 kids, so we didn't really have a ton growing up. My dad had a fine job, but once you divide it by 9, because there's 9 people in my family, there's not a ton to go around. So my life growing up was like thrifting and garage sales and like everything is secondhand and forged and taken from the side of the road. So I think that's part of why I love forging. And my mom's instilled like the appreciation of free things and a good deal. So it's a little bit easier to be an entrepreneur when you have those values.
Do you feel like being an entrepreneur is a choice or is just in you? It's just a part of you.
Maybe a bit of both. I think there are people that are naturally drawn towards being more independent, but you do have to make the choice to not have a backup. You do have to drop what you're doing and being like, all right, I'm going to do this. I'm going to make it work however I can. And that you have to make the choice to do that, which is kind of scary to like take a leap, from your comfort zone.
For you, if you were to tell someone that's maybe newer in the industry, or I don't want to say new in the industry because you could be shooting since you were like a teenager or younger.
Right.
So maybe you've been shooting a long, long time and you're wanting to just do something with your art. What would you say would be the first couple steps someone could take to really get their work out there? Because it's hard now. Like you could start Instagram now. And then to really reach new people and to build that account, I think is a lot harder than it used to be.
Yeah, I think that's probably true. I think also having old accounts though is kind of bad too because I've just heard that like older Instagram accounts
have stagnated, right?
Yeah, exactly. Yeah. I guess. Well, when I first started doing Instagram, like posting my work online, that was my goal, was to get followers. I was like, I just wanted to get to 10K. And so I was just like hashtagging everything, tagging feature pages, being consistent, posting and being engaging with people. And then after I hit 10K, I was like, okay, I did it. And then I just kind of stopped doing all of that and just was posting more of what I wanted. I know that I do curate what I post to a certain extent to how it would perform on Instagram. But I guess hashtagging and being engaging with people and sincere, I think, is really appreciated. And that's what keeps people coming back to your work and supporting you. So that's the most heartwarming one. If you want something a little bit more like strategic, hashtags and feature pages and stuff like that. Yeah.
I really want to know where you see your evolution, because if someone were to look at your work and where you at now in the industry and with your business and your art, I always wonder, someone that's doing so well and like creating so many beautiful things, it's like what is your drive? What is your drive to do what? Like to do what's like the next thing, or what are you striving for? Or are you striving, are you striving, or is it more that you're just enjoying being in the place that you are and you just want to maintain where you are?
Right. Yeah, I think as far as like where I see myself when it comes to like when I think about that, like I'm like, where do I want to be in the future? It has really nothing to do with like I want to have a greenhouse and I want to have a tree. I want to have like my own tree. Those are like my like life goals and the things that genuinely like first pop into my mind. Like I want a house that like I can like live in and support myself in, but whatever way I get there, like hopefully I'd be doing something I don't hate. But as far as my work, I think I don't really have any goals for it. It's just very small. Like I was saying, every time I go into a shoot, I have two restrictions, and those are my goals. And I'm like, all right, my goal today is I want to shoot with this, and then it ends there. I don't really have like a big goal, which might be a bad thing, but might be not a bad thing because I have very attainable goals, so I'm not like disappointed usually. But yeah, I don't know. I don't really have a clear image of where my photography is going. I guess it's just more of a day-to-day thing.
Britta, thank you so much for being on the PepperCast. And is there anything that we haven't talked about? You're like, shit, Stace, like I really want to talk about this.
Yeah, just making passion and being authentic to yourself. I mean, I feel like that sounds so cheesy, but I think it's true. Just like having those be the things that fuel you. I think that it's easy to get caught up in numbers and likes and stuff like that, and it just takes all of the fun out of it. So just kind of like setting those things aside and staying true to like what you love and really focusing on that.
I know so many people are going to get a lot out of this, and you're just a very inspiring human being. So thanks again.
Thanks for having me.